Greetings, my friends, to another episode of the Ascential experience. And it's about the detail and the breakdown of making contact and the overwhelming evidence. So I'm not going into ancient sites right now and things we find and legends and translations and transliterations. I'll give you an example of an experience that I had and a development with the experiment or experience. They're kind of both. And when you open your mind, try to not be in fear and allow yourself to, there's like a field that communicates to you what's happening. So I had an interview with a friend of mine a while ago, but I specify this here in the show. And that was my encounter on Mount Shasta. And this was a very detailed encounter. Some people are like, oh, you gotta do the drug. It is a psychedelic mind state when it happens. To my knowledge, a dolphin can induce the release of DMT, which will result in you opening up. People call that the trip. Medicinal things can do that. Or a ship can do that. They can basically beam you with a frequency, and it's just like you are on mushrooms. It's the same thing. Not all the time are modalities required how we think they are required. So don't be misled. The mystical state is what's required for you to see auras, to see ships, to make contact, and to somewhat stabilize your perception of what time or consciousness modulated as in cycling and perceiving time is. Meaning, you need time for me to words that form and sentence that create pictures in your mind, to put pictures together to understand, oh, that's what he's saying. Now I get it. But same thing in the contact experience, this is a little bit, you can say disrupted because you have a time dilution happening when they meet you. And then it's very hard for us. We're like 2 or 3 year olds trying to figure out what's actually happening to us. We can't quite compute. We don't really get what's going on. So I'll give you a rundown of a contact case that is completely controlled and how that can take place. It's like this. We sit by the fireplace and then we have a feeling like 9 people, and we agree that everybody has this urge to go up the mountain. So I think it was 9 people, and then we sit around the fireplace. It's almost like in unison. We look at each other and we all agree to leave. There was a person out in the field that took another hike that got the same download. And at the minute we get up from the fireplace, I understand, we getting up, and then this person is like maybe a mile or 2 out, and we're moving in a direction like this. This is controlled. So the way our ancestors have control over time and space and mind, you can't even begin to fathom. It's that big. People talking about atomic energy, Elon Musk mission to Mars. This is caveman stuff. Sticks and stones compared to what I've experienced. So we all are being called up to the mountain, and we walk a mile or 2 into the woods, and then we find this little plateau, and everybody's like, this is where they want us to sit down. Agreed, and everybody, that this is the place. So like protocol and having the knowing as in the download, we sit down. We wait a minute or 2, and then we hear this sound. And I'm a sound engineer by trade. I have a master's in sound and electrical and computer engineering. And I heard a sound where it's like a phase shifting. Phase shifting means when something, it's like two sounds in one. So one would be ooh, and the other one would be like, when you put that together, it's like, see, and that interval creates this phase shift, this kind of like a flanger effect, like, that's kind of the sound. So you can't quite make out what it is, but you know something has changed and the sound is changing. Now, for those who play computer games, you will take note. If you ever looked at a computer game and the grass is moving and you see the algorithm and that several grass leaves all move the same, and you know it's an animation simulating nature. So when this sound wave happened, the birds got quiet, the bees got quiet. It felt like the clouds didn't move, like they were standing still. Like I'm in a hologram and somebody's all of a sudden controlling either the hologram or my perception of it. Hologram is, for your mind perceives, and science knows this now, holographic. So I'm sitting in a room, and the room is a box, and to the mind is a box, even though there's more going on, but what you perceive is what happens in that room. You can't go beyond that, like a fish in a fishbowl. So they explain to me this is interdimensional. So they say when we come to you, it's not kind of like that we're coming to you from a reality that you know. No, we're coming from a future timeline, of like a future projection or a future reality. And we have to project ourselves and translate ourselves as information to a level where you can perceive that, where your brain still have receptors that you can actually grasp that when we get you into fields where the veil is very thin. So to do that in New York City could be traumatizing. It could damage the vessel, it can damage the brain. That's why setting for contact is very important for those species or our future ancestors. And they know this. They're very particular and they're very subtle about that, because they say we're not going to appear in front of the White House. It's a typical question. Speak to the president. We tried that before. We were betrayed, we were killed, we were abducted, we were shot down. We're not talking to your leaders anymore because your leaders seem to not be leaders and not having everything in control. There's so much corruption going on. We pick delegates now. So what they do is people in the country, and they've been doing this since the 40s and further back, but just, for the popular, everybody knows Roswell. Also study the Betty and Barney Hill case. They pick delegates, preferably Arizona. There are big gateways and corridors, open roads, big deserts, easy to change the hologram because you don't have to change a lot. So back to Mount Shasta. So I'm sitting there with my people. I don't know if everybody that sat there with me experienced the same thing that I saw. First off, I knew an insect flew in. There was a camera to observe us. One of our members said, "Could you please remove the camera?" The insect landed on her leg. It looked kind of like a little nanobot. Like you could see the way it would move. It was mimicking, but it wasn't really an insect. So I'm like, okay, everybody was sober. Nothing was involved to alter our consciousness. Our state of consciousness was actually expanded, not altered. Like when people say altered into a state of where you don't know what's right from left. Well, when truth comes in, sometimes people don't know that. So the camera was removed, and we heard the sound, and the ship came from across the desert, not the desert, of the valley to Mount Shasta, over the hills, flying in our direction. So I looked at the ship. One part of me could see like a shimmer, and as if a magnifying glass was held over the image, and it's kind of see-through, translucent, coming at us. And I'm trying to focus in, but with my old consciousness, I can't. It doesn't work. So I was like, I'm like, you seeing this? And we all saw this disc, and it wasn't silvery for me. It was more foggy, translucent. You can look right through this apparatus. So if anybody wants to say government, I know for a fact this wasn't government. This was so way ahead of time. You can't even begin. So as the ship neared, it had this aura, like, you were on a high, and everything was affected. The trees, the grass, as this thing gave off a humming sound like it seemed like that the surrounding environment would move with the sound, like the grass would it would, as if this directs the entire field that we're sitting in. So I wasn't sure, are we now sitting in a parcel, as in like a lot that was assigned by the craft to contact us? Or did they copy paste that lot and we're already on a ship and we're thinking we're still on that mountain so we wouldn't be shocked? I wasn't quite sure. I didn't even know why I have those thoughts in my mind. I saw hikers walking towards the direction where we were in. Crystal clear, mind you. A crystal clear day. Everybody is fully alert, aware. No drinking, nothing. Sober. We had soup in the morning and some eggs. And I saw this mountain guide leading his group towards where we were sitting. And I'm thinking, he's gonna walk right into the contact. And Lord and behold, right at the edge of where I could see where this cube would end of our reality perception, this guy stopped and said, I think we should take another route. And I'm like, that's them. They're controlling that guy. And the mountain guy didn't even look in our direction. Like, I don't know what they did, but he couldn't even perceive where we were. And to him, I think we were not even there. And he turned around and led his hiking group. And not one of them looked at us or turned around or was perturbed by anything that was happening. I'm like, this is so gigantic. Why are they not responding? And I believe to this day, they were not even in the field to see that there's full contact going on and we are absolutely shielded from anybody else seeing that. I'm like, that's phenomenal. That's mind-blowing. And I miss those reports in shows where I want to see experiences. Preferably, I'd like to have them visit Sedona and we do interviews here. I want outstanding and phenomenal storylines that these people have and how their life has changed. I mean, mine is forever changing. I mean, I can't even begin nor go in the middle, or it's just an explosion of things coming to me. Besides me channeling technology, knowing how things work, where people like, how do you figure this one out? I'm just putting X and Y where they were separated together. Or I look at scientists and I'm like, you know, put it this way, Erich von Däniken looks for the archive of Enoch, and then J.J. Hertak writes the book, The Keys of Enoch. And I'm like, why isn't Erich von Däniken not studying the keys of Enoch? So there are things being channeled and there are things being found, but I think we need to combine now what's being channeled and what's found to really get a grasp of this is all connected. We are so segregated in our belief system that we don't connect the occult science with the science that has actual facts, like Anton Parks, who channeled part of his existence in the Anunnakian basis, and then meets scholars and compares the cuneiform clay tablets and finds out that his storyline actually goes hand in hand with what he channels. Very important, and I think we miss that. These are the nuts and bolts of recalibrating reality and bringing that back and remembering who we are so we're not so shocked when we encounter ourselves from the future. So we are on Mount Shasta, and we're sitting there receiving downloads, geometry, formulas, I don't even know what, like languages. I'll come to that maybe in the next show or some of those episodes. Transcripts, channelings, codes, and explaining what that means and how that comes in. That's, you download stuff, you need to process that because it's like knowledge bomb. It's like instant stuff, but your brain cannot process that immediately. It needs to come up in a way so psychologically for the brain that makes sense. So it's completely new psychology being applied when these things happen to you. Also, a certain level of intelligence that certain people are being contacted and they're being put in a purpose. So they are creating that contact and the templates for people to understand how to approach that. So When we were sitting in the contact, I had no sense of time. I had a feeling of bliss. I was completely in healing mode. I felt boundless. I felt limitless. I was in joy. I was ready to leave, mind you. Like if you kind of have a memory where you're from and you realize the difference contrasting to where you're from, you want to leave. You were like, I'm gone. But you're here for a purpose. And for those experiences that are very important and very dear to me, you are the ones that have this experience to bring forth physical form in writing. Some are the scribes and some are the architects and builders and some are all of that. So we're here to bring stuff here. Like Terence McKenna said, create art. Disguise that art. What does an artist do? An artist is trying to create something that hasn't existed on this planet before. That is using your imagination. I'm Magi Nation. Magi Nation. Meaning like you are a nation from the nation of wizards. And that's what wizardry is, and that's what creating reality is. And that is where the pyramids come from. We are reality creators. And when the ship comes, that's a reality being created. And then try to not resist, try to be in agreement with that. None of us had anything with this reptilian and all this hideous stuff that they propagate. And you know Hollywood, the ETs and the invasion. There will never be a disclosure the way you expect that. Listen to a channel from a friend of mine named Lincoln, who channeled that we always need the big bro, like the big government, to say, yeah, ETs are real. And then everybody was like, yeah, well, if the president says it's real, the lemmings jump behind it, then it must be real. This is not the way this is being taught. This is for you to feel, to understand, and to experience that they are here, they have never left, and they are real. And Nityananda said that experience is the ultimate. If you have experienced that, if you have lived that, you have been to a place and you have come back to tell, nobody can beat that. That's enlightenment in itself. Meaning like you have never, let's say you have never heard of Italy. And somebody says, well, I have some tickets, we can take a plane, we can actually fly there. And you go there. But it's all theory before you visit the place. Getting the tickets is all standard to you because in your consciousness and the way the herd consciousness works, well, getting tickets, you go to the airport, everybody knows this. But now these experiences come in and not everybody knows this. We are learning that. We are wanting to be humble, and trust me, even those who are against it, when it happens, they're scared. So you being against contact or saying this is all negative, it's already a slave programming that is put into your gene code as a GMO to prevent you from waking up to the fact that this is so, that you're making an experience that others are not making, and you have to explain that or not. I mean, I know people that live in hiding. I know people to this day, they say, oh, for Christ's sake, no camera, no names. I stay in the background. People will think I'm a lunatic. It's time to come out of your cave. For the Bible true people, God calls Elijah out of his cave. The Elijahs are you. You are the ones with the messianic powers. All of you. You're on earth. You're worthy. Point blank. And for those who make the experience, you are being called forth saying, I made that experience. And when you have enough people sharing what they experience, we make it real. So this is the story of the 100th monkey, Rupert Sheldrake. I recommend reading that book. Take notes. This is important. The theory and the experiment of the 100th monkey, and it's the same thing with contact. You can do that with 100. You don't need 51% to be conscious on this planet again. If on 100 people, 100,000% down to the subatomic level know that contact is real, you have a ripple effect. And others will know it's real, and they will also know how to conduct themselves. So the theory of the 100th monkey is the same with the theory of the 100th contactee. Put it this way. You have a group of monkeys on an island that's separated from the other monkeys. So the group of monkeys that's being influenced has no visual contact, to the other islands and their other ancestors and, let's say, monkey colleagues. So one day a group of scientists drop potatoes at the beach. And the monkeys are curious and they're moving forward. And this is all science. This is not fiction. This is really to be looked at. And there's one monkey, and this is usually how this works, the most curious one. And he moves forward. And he picks up the potato. And nibbles on it and spits it out because it's wet, there's sand on it. It's not really comfortable to chew. And he plays with it and he licks it and he, tries to remove the sand, realize this is something that has sustenance. It's food. And no one knows how this comes in. This is how consciousness works. He somehow realizes licking it, takes the sand off, but not all the way. He's by the beach. So he rolls it near the water and plays with it because he doesn't know, what do I do with this? It's a monkey state of mind. Maybe only the one chakra 1 and 2 is on. 3 is flickering. What's my will? What's my intent? Not even really there. And he figures out when he dips it into the water, the sand comes off, which is peculiar to him, and he observes it. He licks it, the sand is off, he dips it again, he licks it. Then he begins eating, and then he realizes, hey, okay, if I wash this, I can eat it. So he begins to dipping the potatoes and eating the potatoes. And the other clan is curious, because right now he is, disruptive. He's doing something that none of the monkeys in the clan are doing. This is where we humans are. But they're open enough to observe what he's doing, and they're realizing that dude's successful. And we were eating the grass and all of these things over here, but this dude has this stuff here and he seems to be happy and nourished. Let's venture there where the potatoes lie. Of course, we influence that, but that's how consciousness bleeds. You can say in a way contaminates. And then a second monkey picks up a potato, looks at the neighbor, dips it, and does the same exact thing. So that's visual contact, trust, and looking at him. So over time, for the 6 weeks, you have 100 monkeys sitting at the beach. When the potatoes get dropped off, they know what to do. They run for the potatoes, they dip them in the water, and they feast. Now here's the amazing thing that happens. On the other islands, the potatoes weren't touched. After 100 monkeys have made the experience that this works for them, the monkeys on the other islands, mind you, without visual contact, they could have not observed that visually, begin to get unrest, and something urges them to find the potatoes. And they all begin dipping the potatoes, grabbing the potatoes, washing them and eating. And then the entire island group, all over the place in these island groups, somewhere around Japan, this experiment took place. They learn from the morphogenetic field that this is so, like a brainstorm, picking up an idea and running with it. And that's the same thing with contact. When we accept that our human members on planet Earth make those experiences, the human race realizes it's real. I think personally, we already know this is real. We know people have experience with that. There have been implants removed from people. People have the weirdest scars, triangles and whatnot. People found, you can say, futuristic computer technology in people's ear sockets, or nose, or anywhere where doctors couldn't explain how metal objects can get in the body. People walk through scanners and they're being asked, did you have an operation? Well, because we were detecting a metal here, and the person would swear, like, I have no scar, I never had any operations, so I don't know what your machine is detecting. So at the airports right now, it's funny to observe, they say, let's keep on moving. The machines are faulty at times, they don't work right. I guess the machines work actually perfectly right. 100% right, make no mistake. they beep and bleep and they're detecting something, and it's not a mistake. But our consciousness is like it's not there. So it's like somebody can see a ship and a person stands next to that person and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see anything. Or a person stands in the field, hears a sound, hears a high-pitched sound, maybe ultrasonic, and one person doesn't have the frequency range to hear that. And one person was like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're imagining things. I don't hear anything. And the other dude hears dog pipes or very fine pitch energies. So when somebody makes an experience, we should open ourselves to listen to one another, listen to our kids with those stories. And I'm not even talking past lives. Whatever comes in is your job. Take a notebook, write down notes of experiences, how they take place, how it comes in, the dimensionality of those things, beings walking through walls. These are masters of this reality. So an invasion is not necessary. If they want to have Earth in a nanosecond, done. What have we got that they need? Gold? Gold in the ancient times was for consciousness and biodynamically downloading the higher state of consciousness. That's why I call myself Ra. In Egypt, this was a state of being to attain, as in spiritual attainment, as in the falcon connected to your crown chakra, clear signal to the sun, back to the central sun, one with oneness, as in law of one, and further out, which is a high state of being of light, and a true magi try to attain that being of the Ra, like Harry Potter, being of his club, where you have Gryffindor, Slytherin, I think Ravenclaw. So now imagine one would be the Ra. These are magi faculties for creating reality in this world, in this realm. That's why this show is created for you to now focus on contact and reality in my house. And at some point, in the next episodes, unfolding, we will look into the detailed experience of contactees, experiencers. Reality shifting. What does that mean, reality changing? When you're at home and things shift. Like, how to detect that you have been visited? How do you know that? What's happening in your house? What detection measures could you use or set up to realize, okay, something is going on and this is not natural. And this is past ghost. This is things taking place, intelligent contact is being established in physical form, and you're invited to open up. And sometimes meditations won't work because your brain state or your neuroplasticity is maybe not equipped to see that and has been built. So these beings come in and fix you, helping you, creating synaptic functions to actually align the brain state to a state where this can be perceived. It's called vibrational matching. Like, if you can't see it, at some point you'll learn to see it. Or what is the training that is required to pay attention? And this is also for you to recognize pattern, and they train you as your mind expands. It's about pattern recognition, how to see there's something out of alignment. It's like, let's say, leaves falling from a tree. They all fall on the street. Can you see that leaf that didn't fall, that was placed? And when you're able to detect that, you begin to see. But if you are not trained, you'll see a bunch of leaves as in reality, and you don't see what's being changed and rearranged. And that we'll talk about in the next episode. Thank you, and I most certainly will see you on the flip side. Peace.